that bullshit. I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, you know, my sidekick. What's poppin', Berk? How you feeling today?
Not good.
No.
Oh, no. What's wrong, buddy?
Shout out to Noah Marinoff. Get this thing started right for the super chat. He said, good luck, everybody, on the S4Y team at WSOP.
Thank you.
I have this long-standing nagging injury. I don't know if injury is the right word. Stupid thing I did. And it's back, and I can't stand up straight, which is so frustrating. I was like screaming in a pillow this morning. I'm just so aggravated.
I think I know why your back's hurting.
Go on.
You can't really stretch out in your bed. You don't have much room.
That's true. I am fully engulfed in a
Gatsby was the last
puppy
of the party,
swaddle.
so he actually
You have a
had
bunch
to
of good puppies in there.
Cuddle puddle,
jockey
if you will.
for this
If
position
you will.
by climbing
Where
over
is
Newt
Pip in this
and
video?
making himself
Well, listen,
a
there's
little
commentary
nest
to it. You'll
with
see.
the pillows. Newt, as you
Our
can
house
see,
guest, Mr. Newt.
he's managed to take up just about as much as the bed is would allow
She
him,
loves having her head just
while
hang.
Pip
Yeah,
is
so-
fully
No head
sprawled
support.
out. No head support
You're
whatsoever.
missing Scouty girl.
This
better
is her
question is, where are
usual
my
resting
legs?
place,
Where
although
are you?
she
I'm
tends
that-
to
I'm
gravitate
that
towards the
little
pillows as the
bridge.
night goes on.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this shakes out.
Newt's such a good boy. He plays with Pip so well.
He's a good boy.
It's crazy how good he plays with Pip.
I fed them all this morning. I had strict instructions that if Newt doesn't eat his food within 15 minutes to pick it up, and that was going to be his window. So 5 dogs I'm feeding this morning. 1 ate. Literally 1 ate, and she ate from every goddamn bowl but her own.
That's definitely Pip.
She's a grown girl.
She's like fucking Goldilocks, like going around boulder. She like Newt's the best.
Yeah.
Really housed his food. These fucking older, Newt's young. He's only like
Yeah,
a year and a half, but the other ones are 11 and 13 and however fucking old Rudy is. No interest in food this morning. No interest in shooing her away, which I do appreciate that there's 5 dogs in the house and none of them are territorial. Like,
Yeah.
because Pip is
All
not
over the
one
place.
to mind her business. She's just like all up in Newt's dick and like all over the other dogs' faces. They don't care. They're so pleasant and docile.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like 12 years ago, do you guys remember when this might have been like when social media was first catching a wave. There was this trend of like guys jumping out of the pool onto the deck and landing it
I think I do
Yeah.
like a
remember this.
plyometric jump.
Oh, yeah.
It was right around the same time when planking was a thing. Remember
Yeah,
that?
the
Yeah.
only people that
Yeah.
tried to do that were idiots. Everybody else just
Please.
edited it.
First of all,
They just reversed it in the edit.
that's funny actually.
Right.
It was like, yeah, good job, tough guy. All I have to do is hit this button here, and yeah, I did the same thing you did.
That actually is pretty funny, and probably very true. Man, I've been duped. So, like the hero that I am, I tried it,
Oh, Jesus.
and I landed it once, which was a really sick feeling. And then when I tried to duplicate it, I landed awkwardly, where I stuck the landing with. I think I stuck the landing with my left side. Maybe it was my right side. I don't remember. And missed with the other foot. So I like fully slipped and extended. And whatever it did.
Flip the disc or something.
No. It's nothing like that. It's all in my hips, but it presents as back pain.
It's all in the
So
hips.
what happened was afterwards, my hips were contoured in a way where like one was forward and the other was back. And it was pulling on my lower lumbar. So I was literally, I don't look good right now. Like I'm walking with a slight hunch.
Yeah.
But when this happened that day, I was like fucking
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was literally like Quasimodo.
Yeah.
I mean, like just fully over knuckle dragging. Like couldn't stand up to save my life. Had a full arch. Wow, you're right. That was definitely reversed. For sure.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
Look how easy it
For
is.
sure.
You know
Yeah.
what? With your bad back, we can get this done today. You can put it wherever you want. Your Instagram, fucking MySpace, wherever you want to put that bad
God damn
boy.
it. I don't know. I watched the ones thereafter, and they all looked legit. But that very first one, when I just caught it out of the corner of my eye, I was like, "That's fucking reversed for sure." Sons of bitches, they got me.
Yeah. And now you have a bad back because of it.
So
That's kinda great.
So yeah, like it like rotated my hip forward, which then pulled on my lower lumbar, and I just couldn't stand up straight. But whatever, like I got treatment. I ended up getting better. But now, like every 2 years or so, it seems to happen again, and it's always the dumbest thing that triggers it. Literally, this is the third time it's been triggered by me doing an exercise that had no weight attached to it. So the last time that it happened to me, and it lasted for so long, the last time it happened, I think was like 2 winters ago, maybe like the winter right after COVID. I was doing skater squats, which is literally just like a reverse lunge, effectively. And I was doing it no weight. I was just getting the movement down, the mechanics down of the movement, and it just went. And I like couldn't stand up after a rep.
God, as soon as you do it too, you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, and it's just like it's the dumbest little thing that triggers. So this one, the current program I'm on isn't super leg heavy, so I added a leg day at home, and I was doing the bar. I was doing bar squats.
It's too much for you, man.
Front squats, nonetheless, with just bar for 15 reps. So effectively, I'm doing air squats.
Yeah. Give you a couple toothpicks.
Finished, and I was like, man, like I feel a little tight. So I obviously like let up, didn't do any more. Go to the gym Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, I was like kind of walking a little bit gingerly, but I was still able to stand up perfectly straight or whatever. And my trainer was like, what the fuck did you do? I was like, I don't know. I think the back thing is like looming again. And it's weird because I'll have these like triggers where it has nothing to do with correlation wise, but like my ankle just started hurting a couple days prior out of the blue.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything. Like didn't tweak it, didn't do it. There's no swelling, nothing like that. It's just like my ankle was just like, my right ankle was just killing me.
You know what it could be?
What?
Could be gout.
No. It's not. Not that. It's just more likely to be.
That's how it happens.
No, it's not.
It's out of the blue. Your ankle just start hurting.
No, it's.
I know.
That's not at all what it is. It's.
Been keep
telling
doing a
them
lot of
it's
red
gout.
meat.
Just keep telling them.
Could be that A5 Wagyu.
Yeah, that's
Uric acid
that's what it
levels
was.
are through the
Definitely got. Yeah, you're right. It just happened to localize in my exact right ankle. Nowhere else. No other joints. No other bones.
That's how it
nothing.
works.
Just
It
one.
localizes in one spot.
Forever.
Gout?
Yeah.
Not forever, but yeah.
You only get pain in one spot. That's not what I've heard. I've heard that it's like your feet, your toes, like your joints.
Usually mine is in very specific spot on my in my foot and then like in my ankle.
Okay. Still multiples. But anyway,
Did your ankle start hurting prior to your back hurting?
Yeah.
So isn't it sometimes if you're like compensating? For
Yeah,
like an
that's what I
injury?
was trying to get at. But fucking Gout Boy's over here talking about me. Like obviously that's what's happening here. It's the opposite side of the hip, and it's just likely guarding for another injury.
Yeah.
So I go to the gym Wednesday, and when I was doing chest press, and when I leaned back with the weight, I just heard it. It's just I was like, yeah, I'm fucked. So I did my set.
Of course.
It was like laying down, there's no problem. Like you can still do your set. I finished my workout, and by the time I left, I went from like being perfectly upright starting the set to like just fully hunched by the time I was ending. Now I've just been like, I'm so miserable.
Yeah.
Like I just want to scream.
But you're still here. You showed up for the people.
This is easy. Playing cards is not, because like mentally I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm boiling over. Like there's an anger inside of me that needs to get out. And
From playing cards, or because of the pain?
Because I'm so like frustrated with the immobility. I can't do anything. Like
You don't have to move around that much, right?
it's uncomfortable to sit. It's uncomfortable to sit. It's just as uncomfortable to stand. I can't really walk.
Can't work out really, which sucks.
Right. And when I lay down, like it's not even that relieving. I have to like lay in the fucking fetal position.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, you should go to like one of those
comfortable.
things like where you break things, but you can't do that either.
No, yeah, that's what I mean. I can't put any force behind anything.
No.
It's like this annoying thing. And the most frustrating part of all is like I've obviously been to a bunch of specialists and chiros and everything else. And they all just say the same thing. It's like you're injured, take some time and do a bunch of soft tissue work. It's like I can only roll so fucking much.
Yeah.
And it doesn't alleviate anything right now. So like I'm especially annoyed.
All I hear that is Berkey and Madison are going to be fucking side by side
In their
riding
little
some
scooters?
tournament. It's this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get you a scooter, Burke.
It's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's time. It's like super annoying because it sounds like an old man injury. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I did this when I was like 28.
Right.
Maybe instead of weight training, a little more yoga, a little more flexibility stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I actually am surprised. Like my range of motion is surprisingly great for my size. But it's not now. So like, that's how I know I'm hurt. So like just testing like the range of motion in my hips. For instance, like if I do like lateral lunges, like side lunges or whatever, I can almost go into a half split. But like right now, I can't even get to 90. I'm just like blocked up, and I don't know how to fix it. Bunch of fucking weird Eastern medicine shit, like dry needling and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is this thing where like when I'm rolling and stretching and whatnot, it feels like there's gas like building up in my like lower back and hip area. And so like I was like rolling today and I was just trying so hard, you know, because like popping your knuckles, like you're just
Right.
trying so hard to figure
Yeah.
out a way to release it. And I hit this hot spot where I was like, oh, I think like I'm finally working it out. And then I just let out the longest fart. And I'm like, okay, I think we got some.
You got a
Yeah.
little release.
Right.
For at least a second, I was like, oh God, that's relief.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a great one for you guys. Paul Skeens is on the mound. He's dealing.
Absolutely dealing.
I'm actually rooting for him. I want him to get this 21 strikeouts.
He struck out the first 7 batters, so that's a good start.
He's up to 8.
He's up to 8 now?
Make
Okay.
that 9. He just struck out Ian Happ.
Oh
so
my
The-
good fucking
The
Happ.
problem
Sorry.
is, shout out to fellow Yinzer Ian Happ.
He is a Yinzer, but man, he's just a pirate killer.
Yeah.
I don't hate the guy personally. He just crushes the Pirates.
He plays for the team he's supposed to be on, or plays hard against the team he's supposed to be on.
Yeah.
The issue with him getting to 21 is he's already 60 pitches in at 4 1/3.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like to have 21 strikeouts, you have to throw 9 innings.
Yeah, you got to get a lot of 1, 2, 3 strikeouts.
Well, they also like you know, I don't know what the pitch count was for Kerry Wood when he hit 20, but I imagine it's
probably like
in the
114.
120s ish, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to have a long enough leash
Mm-hmm.
where it can happen. And if I've learned anything about modern day baseball, which these things I absolutely hate about it, and I know I've ranted about this in the past. If I've learned anything, they don't give a fuck, man. They are so hard capped on these counts.
Yeah, especially for the guy who's, you know, making his second start in the major leagues.
Man,
like,
I wonder who.
But he's like perfect through 4 right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
And if I've learned anything, they don't care. Like I can't remember who it was that got pulled during
I was about to say.
either a perfect game or a no-no in like the 7th
Yeah.
because
they
they hit their 100 pitch cap.
They started flipping.
Of course.
They started
course.
This
flipping.
isn't about
Get in the
individual
dugout.
stats, Burke. It's about a team effort.
Okay, well here's what I don't get. Explain this one to me. I actually saw something yesterday where Nolan Ryan threw a complete 11-inning game and 224 pitches.
Yeah. 224 pitches.
He pitched for like 27 years.
Well, they didn't know anything back then.
He pitched for 27 years.
Yeah, but listen, he is the exception, not the
Is
fucking-
he?
Oh my
yes, this
God.
guy's a fucking
Jim
phenom.
Palmer, fucking Sandy Koufax. Like, I can go down the list of power pitchers through the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
They didn't throw
Randy
100.
Johnson. Randy Johnson threw 100.
Yeah, but they didn't throw the splinker.
Isn't a part of longevity for being a pitcher is that you don't throw a lot of off-speed stuff? Like Nolan was just mostly fastball and.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, as far as like your elbow and your shoulder.
Well, there's a big difference between curveballs and off-speed stuff, right? Like, there's a big difference between the over-the-top 12-6, which you don't see a lot of guys throwing Uncle Charlies anymore. But like sliders are, a little less strain on the elbow, and changeups are almost no strain.
Also, they're probably a little bit more cautious with these guys because, they're getting
I get that
$250 million deals.
Totally understand that.
Right.
Where I'm confused is the amount of ulnar nerve damage that's occurring here, or the UCL damage that's occurring in modern day sports. The amount of Tommy John surgeries that are on such a rise,
right,
in a game where people are like, back then, like being a power pitcher was 95 plus.
Yeah, less. Like you threw 92, you threw pretty hard.
Well, yeah,
There's a lot of guys that threw like
the major league
80s,
average. Yeah, of course, the major league average was around 92 at that point.
Now
but
it's like they all throw 97.
But like the power pitchers were like 95 plus, like the Clemens, the whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's like 97 plus. Right. So pitchers are generally throwing harder now, but like if we look back at that era, the power pitchers didn't get hurt. Randy Johnson, I don't know that he ever had Tommy Johns. I'm pretty positive he didn't.
I don't know.
No, Roger said he fucking killed a bird.
Oh, yeah, well, that bird fucking had it coming. Stay out of the way. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez, like all of these goats from the Smoltz, all these guys from the 90s era, they were out there. They were pushing pitch counts. They were throwing as hard as anybody else in the game at that point. Like, it's not like we look back and say like, oh, well, Nolan Ryan only threw 94. Like, there's rumors that like him and Sandy Koufax threw over 105. They just didn't have a gun to clock it.
Yeah.
And it's like, who knows? That might be folklore, but like these guys were hitting triple digits for sure.
I mean, that has to be folklore, right? Like, if you think about all the drugs that these people are putting in their damn body now, there's no way they're throwing. Well, I mean, then I don't think there was drugs like today.
Oh God, yeah, there was. What are you talking about, man?
Nolan Ryan,
bro. Have you heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger? In
the 60s?
Fuck yes. Yeah. Well, the 60s was the greenie era. Everybody was on speed.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that, I mean, the pitchers weren't juicing, but I'm sure that there were some people that were juicing. But like, yeah, I mean, is that just it? Like, do we just like let them fucking juice, man? If that's what's gonna get my number one out there for 122. So somebody said that Kerry Wood threw 122 pitches in his 20th strikeout game.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like that's unheard of now to me. Like that's not even okay. Good. That's an average outing. I used to throw 100 pitches in a 7-inning game. Like, what are we talking about here? Why? And why? Like,
but I think it's the younger pitchers that they are more, protective of until they really get stretched out.
Is Cole going out there throwing complete games?
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you.
Cole, he's throwing 100. Over 100.
Let me ask you guys a question.
For sure.
So you guys think he's going to get cut off at 100 here?
I think less.
Less. Probably. It's only his second game, so I would be surprised if I see him go more than like 80, 90 pitches.
It's funny. So he's gotten run support in both of his starts. His last game, he was winning 6-1. They pulled him, and he didn't get the decision. They ended up winning like 10-9 or something like that.
Right.
He's up 5-0 right now, throwing a perfect game through 4.
And they're going to take his ass out.
And it's going to be a fucking 1-run game. He's probably not going to get this. Anyway, neither here nor there. I guess like the thing that okay, fine. Why 100? Tell me that's not an arbitrary fucking number.
Oh, very arbitrary, of course.
Right? Like, where's the data on this?
Yeah.
Like, there's no goddamn way.
I think that. I don't think it's so much 100 anymore. I think that was the thing when it first started because they just needed a number. But now it's like you'll see, it's less, which is funny. It's like sometimes like they took Jared Jones out after 59 pitches once, and then they I think it has to. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it has to do with. I'm all for it. I'm all for it if it's a science, but to me it doesn't feel that way. I don't know because baseball's so analytical that that's all they do is look at numbers.
Yeah, but Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's like so many variables to isolate here. It's
Right.
like at what point is there deterioration on the quality of a pitch, the increased likelihood of, and
Right.
so much
Where
of
are we
it's-
at in the game? Like, right, if you're up five runs, you're probably going to pull them. You're probably going to like take a time.
Well, strategy wise, it's like it's all innings, right? No matter what. At the end
How's
of the
your
day,
bullpen? Is your bullpen like? Is it in good shape right now? Like, there's like certain times like,
Right, but
okay,
it-
we want to save.
but you can't just think about.
We want to save pitches.
You can't just think about that. You have to think about it globally. You have to think about it as far as the year goes, right? You're going to play X
Right.
innings
Yeah.
over the year. Those innings need to be divided amongst certain pitchers, and there should be pitchers on your staff that are taking a greater workload than others because
Right.
they're more talented.
You also want to save your pitchers for when it really matters, right? Like the end of the year. Look at Strasburg, right? His like when he played for the Nationals. He reached his pitch count, or his inning count for the year, and they shut him down right in the heart of a pennant race. And then like they shut him down. He didn't pitch in the playoffs, nothing, because it was like he reached his innings and that was it. So like they don't want to do
I think
that
he's a
this
great
year.
case. I think he's a great case for why you shouldn't treat these guys with kid gloves.
Because you only get so long in the league.
He never got to really compete in meaningful games,
Yeah.
and he's just been DL'd his entire career. Like he retired on the DL.
The down low?
Well, it used to be. I think it's the IL now.
It is the
injury list.
injured list, yeah.
But yeah, it's just like you can't predict the future, and this whole idea of like conserving, I think, is just a flawed way of thinking about it,
Yeah.
right? Like this notion of well, if we restrict now, then we can open up later. It's just kind of like it doesn't really work that way, right? It's progressive overload, just like anything else. So you're training into it, and I totally understand if the notion is like, okay, 5 innings early in the season leading to 6 or 7 later.
Right.
But like the notion of, well, I'm only going to throw him, it's like mid-July. It's like, well, I'm only going to throw him 5 today because we might need him for 8 the next start.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's more like I said, like you're going to try to find ways to save innings, save pitches. So it's like, okay, well, our bullpen is in really good shape and we're winning 5-0. This is a good time to have him only throw 5.
The problem with that thought process is not recognizing that it's a push and pull. So every time that you shorten the leash for your starters and you reduce their innings, you lengthen the leash and you add innings to the bullpen.
Right.
And there's just no managing that unless you have a rotation going through your bullpen where you have other guys that you can call up to eat innings.
No, that's true. Right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, like, college ball is a lot easier because you have fewer innings to manage. But it's just critical that like when you're losing, you have that one guy whose sole position on the team is to pitch in games that don't matter.
Yeah. Another thing is like Paul Skeens. He's like never like he got drafted last year. He was playing college ball last year. So like he's never went like through a full season where he was in a 5-man rotation where he was pitching every 5th day.
Yeah.
Right. So he needs to get stretched out. He's not used to this. So they just have to kind of like.
Yeah, I agree with the progressive overload or workload thing.
Yeah.
I'm not even relating this to Skeens alone. I think it's like just, sport wide. It's just no longer a standard for starters to come out and try to actually pitch the game in
it's like
meaningful innings.
6 innings, but like you also, the bullpens are constructed different now too. So like you do have your holder, your setup guy, your closer. So it's like,
I think
these
that's
guys
all
are specialists where it's kind of like you only need your starter to go 6 innings in a lot of instances.
I think that's always been true. They've just changed the way that they'll utilize those positions. So they'll put like, set up men in high leverage spots earlier in the game now, as opposed to only using them in the 8th. Same thing with closers, like whatever. But again, that's the other thing that's gone. Like you don't see the 3 inning save any longer. I don't even think people are aware of that. You know that if you just throw the last 3 innings,
it's a
regardless
save.
of score,
Right.
it's a save.
Yeah, no matter. Yeah.
I don't think people are aware of that because
the Pirates have done it multiple. I feel like they do it all the time.
Well, they probably have an inning eater who comes in, in like a 7-0 game.
Right. Yeah.
I never knew that, and I'm like, I love stats.
Yeah,
love stats. I look at all stats for every game, like every day, and I never knew that.
I mean, it's kind of just like a tip of the cap to the guy who's going to hold the game down when you're blowing out.
Right.
You know, it's like 11-0. You pull your starter after 6. He's going to throw the 7th, 8th, and 9th, that type of thing. But there's also like high leverage spots where you might want to use your closer. And you know, it's not going to happen in May. But there could be some spots in like late September, early October that it's like, okay, buddy, here's the ball. You got the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Do something.
God, I hope Nikki's watching.
Me too.
Nothing like, you know, 25
Friday.
minutes of sports ball.
I don't give a shit.
I
man.
don't
It's
care
Friday.
either. I know it's Friday.
It's
Paul
Friday.
Skeens is on the mound.
Ain't got no job.
Ain't got shit to do.
Yeah. Pirates are just mashing right now.
It's either that or I'm just going to go on a fucking rampage about all the things that have me fuming. And I don't think anybody wants that. While we're on the topic of sports, before we move on, little bit of a shakeup. Is it the Masters or the PGA? Wait, what's going on right now?
It's just a PGA event.
PGA
event, yeah. So it's in Louisville, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like Scottie Scheffler, who I
Number
believe
one?
was the odds-on favorite.
He's the
He
number
had-
one golfer in the world right
Listen,
now.
he's
Right.
won everything for the past 6 months.
Yeah, he
at
won the
least.
Masters.
He looks like a man
right?
who has won everything.
Everything. He's won like.
Is it just? I mean, just no one takes.
Better
a good
win
mug
this
shot?
court case, I'll tell you that.
I guess he spent the night in jail, and then he comes out, and right now I think he's shooting like a -5.
Stroking.
Yeah.
He's just absolutely out
determined.
here stroking.
So what exactly happened here?
Well, we got a video of the arrest. We can go ahead and play that and then get into it a little bit.
Guys. Dude, step back.
Throw it full screen if you can.
I'm back.
You're game 1, right?
Yeah, I took 15. Guys.
What do we tell you?
I'm staying back.
Here's the thing. Right now, he's going to jail.
Okay.
Okay? He's going to jail, and it ain't nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
Okay? Now, do you have
First,
a question?
I'm media.
Do you
I'm
have a
reporter,
question?
okay? That's all.
That's fine.
I just want to make sure that's
Okay,
known.
but you need to step
No
back
problem.
over here now.
No problem. You got it.
Okay?
Okay. Guys.
All right,
Guys.
so
He just comes out, shoots a -5 today. No problem. You
he
know.
already finished his round.
Yeah.
Wow, sick.
He's just number 2 in the day.
Okay, so apparently he was charged with assault in the 2nd degree of a police officer.
That's not good.
Criminal mischief in the 3rd degree, reckless driving, and disregarding signals from officers directing traffic. Now, the tweet that I read earlier, I don't know how accurate of an account this is that basically they came up on some sort of traffic stop, I guess, and it sounds as though he basically tried to like push his way through it, and you know, basically tried to drive around whatever they were utilizing to block off traffic, cones, whatever. And a cop like attached himself to the car, through which Scottie stopped. But at that point, you know, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't just be driving around with a cop dangling off
Right.
your rear view mirror, you know?
To be fair, that's probably not what happened. He was probably on there for like half a second. or
Yeah,
something.
of course, but
Yeah.
it's going to get exaggerated, especially in
Sure.
the report,
course.
especially when you're trying to.
Oh, I wonder if he had a best cam on,
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
because that would, tell the tale a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I mean, in any event, it doesn't sound like he's in the right here. I mean,
No.
I can't imagine too many scenarios where
He's going to jail.
Ain't
Nothing you can do about it.
So Jason said that the traffic was being rerouted due to a fatal car accident, and it sounds as though he was just trying to push through.
Ooh.
Which
Scottie ain't got time to be waiting around for no dead people.
Wasn't it said it was in front of that tweet that you were referencing, said it
Yep.
was in front of the Valhalla golf club. So
yeah, that's why I thought it was this morning.
Yeah.
And maybe it still was this morning. It could have been like 6, 7 a.m.
well, no, he started shooting at 4:50 at this our time. So yeah,
So
7:50.
8
So he
a.m.
probably got there at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, so it probably was. He was probably on his way for like practice rounds or whatever.
Yeah. I
Whatever the
guess.
fuck they do prior to the sun coming up. Yeah, so Albert said it was 5 a.m. this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
Damn, they bailed him out quick.
hold on, they took his ass down to the
PGA Championship, man.
They took him down to the precinct.
Booked him.
They booked him, put him in oranges, and then he
Took
got
his
out
picture and
immediately.
bounced. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I was
Wait, is it the PGA Championship or is
Yeah.
it just a PGA event?
No, it's PGA Championship.
Oh, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
championship.
It's Valhalla.
Whatever Valhalla is. So the chat's on this, man. Ron in the chat says he has a PGA labeled car. It was super early this morning. He got arrested, booked, and back to the course for a 10 a.m. tee time. So yeah, I mean, I imagine that he probably just didn't know someone was dead and was trying to leverage the celeb status a
How do you
bit.
get bailed out that quick for if the charge is endangering a police officer? Like, how do you get out that quick?
Bail is just predicated on if you're a flight risk, right?
Mhm.
I mean, the lawyer met him at the. By the time he literally got to the precinct or whatever, his lawyer was
Yeah,
already
you
there.
you have a
You
really
would
good
think
lawyer.
for certain
they'll just-
charges, though, you wouldn't get out so quickly.
Well, you're right. If he had, bodily
Priors
harmed
and-
somebody,
Yeah,
or
if he has priors,
you know,
if he is like, yeah. There's,
if it were something where he would face a jury, I assure you he would still be in jail.
Mhm.
But
I mean, he will face a jury.
I mean, he isn't.
I don't
he,
think he's
like,
going to go to trial for
he
this.
endangered a
Well,
police officer.
There's no shot this goes to trial.
Probably not. No, it probably just,
Like
most of it
0%.
gets- Most of it probably just gets dropped.
I mean, even for
Yeah, it'll either get
DUIs, you're in the
dropped
drunk
or-
tank for like 12 hours.
Yeah, but you're
that's
drunk.
different.
You're actually drunk. You gotta.
But almost running someone over is,
Well, let's not.
like I said, I understand. But I mean, I'm just thinking of the charges and how quickly this guy got out.
I mean, it's just like
Sounds like privilege.
I
Of
was gonna
course
say,
it's
I was about to say, you
privilege.
did see the color of his skin, right?
It's not white privilege. It's fucking rich
I got
golfer
money
privilege.
privilege.
I mean, it's
just-
both.
You think Tiger wouldn't be out also?
No.
Oh, come on.
I don't.
Listen, if your lawyer meets you at the precinct or whatever, wherever you're going at that moment, bookings, like you're gonna get out regardless
Yeah,
who you
rich
are.
privilege is
Conrad
one thing,
knows.
but
No, I
you
don't.
add rich and white, then you're just really privileged.
It's strictly golfer privilege at this point. Like he had an event to play. He's an athlete. They weren't gonna throw the fucking book at him over this. I mean, like I'm sure it was just a situation that was like super insensitive in the moment, where like these cops are like, "Yo, someone's dead," and he's like, "I got to get to the clubhouse. I don't give a fuck about this pedestrian that got ran over by a bus."
You need to check your privilege.
Oh, let's not.
You know what? We actually have a course called Check Raise Your Privilege on.
Yeah, we should get rid of that one. It's stupid.
Sorry, Jack.
That's a really stupid
Right.
title.
But it is. But you can see it. You can see it for half off.
Tell them.
You just type chaos code, till the 31st, and you'll be good to go. Software.io.
That was a great attempt. Wasn't the best plug. We'll try again. So if you actually want to catch a new course, Matt Hunt has just dropped
That's
part
the one
one
you want.
of Theory in the Chaos, which is strictly multi-way. You're not going to find this content anywhere else. He examines bomb pots, 5-way, 4-way, 3-way pots, basically utilizing a new solver technology called Rocket Solve. That at a bare minimum is going to start to give you a glimpse of what Theory would want to do in these multi-way scenarios. And I think that this is really something worth looking into, or it's going to be eye-opening in the sense that Theory's never going to be clear and binary the way that it is in heads-up scenarios. So we can solve heads-up hold'em to a certain degree because it's predictive, right? Like there are only two actors, so each action is just dependent upon one another and they mirror each other. In multi-way scenarios, though, there are going to be multi-equilibria because the action is circular. And it's not only forward dependent, but it's also backward dependent, right? So my reaction is going to be dependent upon whatever it is that you did, but also everybody's reaction thereafter is going to be dependent upon whatever decision I make now. So it really does create this spiderweb effect of how the theory plays out, and Matt taking the time to kind of analyze this, break it down into simple terms. I think it's probably one of the most valuable courses that we have to offer. So if you guys want to check that out and you're not already a member, you can sign up with code CHAOS, get half off your first month, as the manager said. And let us know what you think about the first half. The second half should be up sometime around
I'm
the
super
series.
excited for it to dive into it because I know I'm going to be playing some multi-way plots.
I mean, this is just
summer.
built for the Jewel of the South.
Yeah, for the Jewel of the South, for the Gladiator event, for the Colossus. I mean, we're going to be going 5 ways. Let's be honest.
A lot of 5 ways.
A lot of 5-way pot. Oh, to be fair to Jack Lasky, the actual name of that course is Check Raise. It's Your Privilege.
I like that one better.
Which is much better
Way
than what I
better.
said.
Yeah, I'm back on board. Go ahead and watch that course too while you're at it.
Gotta love it.
Thank God we don't let Lamana title the courses.
No.
All right, one last thing before we analyze a little bit of poker. Jesse Lonis put a tweet out yesterday that I found to be quite compelling from a few very different angles. So in one regard, he was kind of just like highlighting what a roller coaster this has all been, and he's so proud of himself for being at the top of the mountain, which I think deserves a lot of accolades.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not easy being number one on the GPI Player of the Year. For the longest time, we saw high rollers dominating this space, and only more recently that players are able to get in higher volume at the 3,500 level, the 10Ks, etc. Have we seen some outliers like Bin Wang, Jesse Lonis, kind of making their way into the top 10, and now, as you see, rise to the actual top. His tweet said, "I finally climbed Mount Ben Wang. This is special to me more than the accolades, or more than most accolades. This was a main goal of mine when I started playing tournaments 4 years ago. Not many people in poker know my early life was very difficult. My father was in prison for most of my childhood, and my mother was an alcohol/drug addict who I only got to meet twice before she passed away when I was 17. There was a lot of points in my teenage years where I was close to prison or death, and statistically speaking, that was the path most in my situation would have ended up taking. When I found tournament poker, the beauty of it to me was that no matter how rich or poor or what background you come from, we all start with the same stack and have to fight the same field to win. I always said no one will beat me if that's the case. People always ask me what I do different that makes me win, and there's no answer. I'm a product of my environment, and all things that I went through molded me into the player/man that I am today. Diamonds are made from pressure, and the pressure I felt as a child, I don't wish on my worst enemy, but it's the reason why I am where I am today. Hashtag Mamba mentality." I think this is really compelling to kind of get a deeper glimpse at who Jesse is. This is like very raw, very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he doesn't have to share these types of details to the public. You can just kind of put your head down and grind. But I think that this is really great, both from a personal level of respect for him that is through the roof. Like, anybody who comes from that sort of background and is able to make it out not unscathed, but
make it out.
Yeah, basically
Period.
Make it out. No worse for wear. Deserves a ton of credit. And then to be just, performing at the top of his craft and able to kind of have the receipts to show for it, it's kind of unthinkable.
And it's like in a way that's not everybody else is doing it. It's against the grain, kind of. Like, he's not studying solvers all the time. Like, he's not doing this. Like, yeah, he talks about poker and stuff, but I'm pretty sure he's not spending X
I think that's kind of like what this post is reflective of, right? Is that he is a carve your own path kind of guy, and it is born a bit out of the survival instincts that maybe he honed in on as a kid.
Yep.
And I don't think that's something that should be downplayed. Like, I mean, I personally, I think at this point in my life and career, I downplay it a lot.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it comes for basically everybody in here, like in different ways.
Yeah. But I think early in your career, it's easy to put a heightened focus on that kind of stuff because you're still so close to it. Mm-hmm. When you're in your mid 20s, I think Jesse's 28-ish.
I think he's my age. I think he's older.
Okay. So maybe early 30s, but you're mid to late 20s, maybe even into your early 30s. You're not that far removed from this portion of your life. Mm-hmm. Shit that happened to you when you were 15, 16, 17 is only maybe a decade removed. And it really is quite the strength whenever you're navigating the unknown. The first 5 to 10 years of poker, no matter how sharp you are, no matter how learned you are, no matter how much you study, it's still experiential, right? You still have to kind of get a sense of the variance. You have to feel it. You have to have your pulse on the finger of the environment that you're playing in. You have to adapt constantly. And really, especially live, you kind of have to be an analytical person through observation as best you possibly can, because we don't have good data on anything. It's not like online where you can fast track a lot of stuff, get 10 million hands, analyze them, and pull population tendencies. Instead, we kind of have to speculate and trust our observation in that regard. And I do think that like people who come from Jesse's background, we see this in Jason Kuhn as well, who came from like a very tumultuous childhood, struggled. You know, he spoke about being temporarily homeless and, you know, floating from trailer park to trailer park, abusive encounters with his dad. Like this builds a grit in people that does actually lend itself very well to the chaos of poker, I think, especially in the live realm, because you are hypersensitive to a lot of the human aspect of it. And I think that this is a skill set that Jesse's really focused in on and is able to execute better than his peers that are, you know, using Landon as like a kind of counter example. Mechanically, they're going to be worlds apart, right? Landon's going to mechanically look a lot closer to what the Sims are doing. Jesse's going to be freestyling quite a bit more. But if we were able to get like perfect information and see how they're playing against their oppositions, Landon's strategy might win like slightly more in general, like in a vacuum, right?
Yeah, in a perfect world.
Well, just in a vacuum, in a generic world.
Okay, okay.
But Jesse's strategy might win more in the specific scenarios that he's actually in, because he's kind of curtailing every decision that he makes for the exact opposition that he's up against, for the exact moment of the event that he's in, for the heightened sense of emotion that is maybe attached to the player that he's up against, because there's X amount of people left and it's a really big event for him. And
So
Jesse
he's not
knows
randomizing against like the casual.
So somebody asked them. Somebody asked him, "Hey Jesse, do you randomize?" He said, "Randomize? I have kids to feed."
It's like an epic all-time
That's
line.
amazing.
Amazing.
I actually think randomization though is kind of like the easiest mechanic, I guess, to point to as to what separates these two groups. Like, I think for everybody who prides themselves in being a good live player, myself included, Chance, Jesse, Ben, Fox, and whoever else you want to throw into that list, anyone who prides himself in putting the vast majority of their volume in live will tell you that they just don't randomize. And the biggest reason for that is that there's just going to be some other bit of information available to them that will lean their decision away from being a mixed one. Right. So every live player, like every live player that is exclusively calibrated for live environments that I know, that I have a lot of respect for, don't mix. They just play pure strategies in every node. And if you zoom out and look at their global strategy on the aggregate, it looks mixed, because against one opponent, they have a pure continue, and against another, they have a pure fold. And over the long run, that just washes out as that candidate is now playing a mix.
Right.
And that's like what theory is supposed to look like. But I think for guys like Jesse, guys like Chance that really pride themselves on being able to read the situation for what it is in real time, very similarly to like maybe a lead detective on a homicide, or basically anything that requires some level of social presence and understanding of what's happening around you. I wouldn't advocate for mixing either, because what could ever really put you into a situation where you're that mentally indifferent? You can always just backtrack through the hand and say, like, I happen to catch him doing this thing that's inconsistent with the things that he usually does. And even though maybe I don't have a baseline for that in this exact moment, my gut tells me that leans him this way or that way.
Right.
And now you just act upon that gut reflex. Even if you're wrong, like you just accept that it's better than leaving it up to chance. And I truly do think in live this is true. I think in online you'll get smashed this way because people are just too good. They're too mechanically calibrated. They're too close to baseline. There's a great book that I always recommend. It's actually pretty old. I think it was written in like 83. It's called The Gift of Fear. And a lot of it speaks to that kind of sixth sense that a lot of people to some degree claim to have.
Intuition.
Yeah, there's a lot of very compelling stories that he utilizes. They're just anecdotes, and they don't really mean anything from a scientific standpoint, but they do a really great job of kind of reinforcing the notion that we are emotionally based creatures, and that we have these emotions for a reason. Like they're built into us for a reason. They survived evolution for a reason. They've helped us, procreate and keep the species alive. And there's a handful of like really great tales that he uses, but the very first one that he opens the book with is this woman who, he basically like paints this picture of like she's walking back to her apartment. Something seems off. Like the hair on the back of her neck is standing up. There's just this feeling or sense about the environment being different that's leading her to anxiety and feeling like, she shouldn't be there or whatever. Like something's just off. And she ignores it. When she gets back to her apartment, it turns out that there was a rapist there who had like broken in and, rapes and kills her. Or maybe he didn't kill her. I can't recall. It's been a while since I read the book. But like something very tragic happens, right? And he was detailing this, or she was detailing this story, basically doubling back to the point where it was like, I knew my gut was telling me at this exact moment to not follow through with my normal routine. And there was like a half dozen stories of similar tales. And, in isolation, they don't mean anything. Even collectively, they're still just anecdotes. But they do really speak to the fact of like when you're like walking through a dark room, there's this heightened sense of, I guess like acute awareness of everything around you. And the second that something doesn't seem right, you are going to fall into that like fight or flight mode. And poker is exactly that. Like it's nothing but chaos. So the amount that people's limbic systems are being stressed and the amount of times that they're, kind of triggering into fight or flight throughout the course of a session, it's going to be in the dozens, especially like the less accustomed to controlling that they are. And people like Jesse that are in tune to that are going to pick up on it. They're going to pick up on that like nervous clenched behavior. They're going to pick up on a little bit heavier breathing or an increased pulse rate based off of a card rolling off. They're going to pick up on the lack of dexterity that somebody has in their hands where they've been shuffling chips perfectly fine all day long. And it's their job now to interpret what that all means and is it worth anything in this decision-making process. And, a lot of people take it too far. You see guys like Helmuth that believe they have white magic and they start folding literally the nuts, based off the fact that they've read into something too much. I don't advocate for that, but it's like, what we're talking about is like the middle and bottom of our range, right? Like the top is the top. Like you get cooled off,
Just pay.
Yeah. The notion is not to like look deep into somebody's soul and find a way to fold the second nuts because, he winked at you or some shit. But when you have bluff catchers, hands that are like literally making zero in theory anyway, these hands should definitely lean heavily into always exploitatively calling or folding based off of the opposition, based off the line that they took, based off of whatever it is that you're able to observe in real time. And that's where I think like guys like Jesse really carve out a big edge, because what else can really explain it, right? He's smashing fields where there are plenty of guys that are more studied, more mechanically sound, making sharper, cleaner, crisper lines, right? But he's just beating them all.
Yeah.
Bin Wang, same thing. He's just
on a lesser
mopping them all.
Field, maybe even J-Bex has some of this in him,
For sure.
We see that he said I don't have a computer, I don't study Sims, but you just see him like smash these like, weaker fields where where a lot of that information is going to be more readily available. Right. And
I think one of the biggest pitfalls or traps that good players can fall into is discrediting this skill in others. So I think a good example of that is like, so J-Bex, he's made a final table with Hunt and a couple others, and we've heard some hand histories. And like he takes very unconventional lines.
Right.
Like disincentivized lines according to theory. And the assumption is that he probably doesn't know that they're disincentivized because he's just freestyling. And that probably is true. However, people who are accustomed to freestyling without any worry or concern about the overlord sim judging them
right,
will back themselves into decisions that force the other person's hand at exploiting it. So when the other person does exploit it, now the re-exploitation by the person who's now backed themselves into this weird corner is to know when they're being exploited and find wiggle their way out. And the level of accuracy of guys like JBEX, etc., it probably varies. Some of it may just be dumb luck and chance, right? They just get bailed out by the deck, or they click the right button, whatever the case may be. But the long-standing guys that are freestylers that aren't really, emboldened to the sim or whatever, they're there because they're able to maybe make a negative EV decision and then correct course. Yeah. And not just default to, I'm at top of range, I call, right? Whatever the case may be, or he never has bluffs here, I fold. And that's tricky, because the truth of the matter is the person who's more studied can absolutely exploit the person who's freestyling, because the freestyler doesn't really know what lies ahead. They're kind of just like feeling around in the dark and feel like they have better night vision than their opponent. But the issue is the person who's like really studied can see ahead in the game tree if he understands what mistake is taking place and how it's happening. The problem is a lot of people just see the mistake happen and then they immediately dismiss their opponent as being incompetent or incapable, and they take the lazy corrective action. And what happens is that lazy corrective action is predictable by the person who made the freestyled mistake to begin with, right? I yesterday, and maybe I was wrong, but I highly doubt it. I 3-bet Jack 10 suited button versus big blind versus button. Flop the nuts on King Queen 9, 2 hearts and a diamond. I've Jack 10 of clubs. I bet and get called, and then
the suits again, man. I'm sorry.
It's all red. I've Jack 10 of clubs. Okay. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. Bring a backdoor flush draw. So now there's 2 flush draws, 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, and I have a 1-liner. I check, and my opponent bets like pot and a quarter with like 175% pot behind. And this is only ever going to be a call in theory. There's nothing else you can do with your hand.
And his hand is only the nuts in every way possible.
Yeah. His hand is literally only going to be
It's funny because you asked me, like, well, what do you do here? And I was like, I was like, you have to call, but it just feels like dirty in the exact situation. And then you tell me your result.
Right. And so, like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, if you can see ahead and you know that the person is freestyling, they haven't really thought this spot through. They don't have vision over what is supposed to play this way. And the easiest way to know that is that this is a non-size. Like, the overbet just does not occur. So the second that you face this non-size on a board texture where a lot of his range doesn't want to do this, like 2 pairs, sets, pair plus flush draw, a lot of these hands don't want to invest all this money because when they get jammed on, they want to die, right? And what can really, like, when I check 2 pair and I face this sizing, you would have to be bluffing a fucking lot, because 2 pair is not incentivized to call, it's incentivized to mix, which means that I'm folding my 2 pair at least some reasonable frequency, and you're now funneling me toward. Basically, what I'm arriving at is that in order to make this non-size bet, you're just trying to exactly hone in on the hands that you fuck, which are Jack X, no redraw, right? So what does that mean then? What's the conclusion? Well, you're probably against Ace Jack, which has you nutted, right? And you're dead to a chop, or you're getting free rolled,
right? Yeah.
You're against a pair plus
Jack X of diamonds
or hearts.
Exactly. You're against Jack X of diamonds or hearts, and now you're just getting free rolled. So you're basically putting in 125% of the pot to then have to call off the remaining 175% of the pot in hopes of chopping.
Right.
So I just folded face up.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you have ace queen here like you're supposed to, God bless, but I highly doubt it.
Right.
So it's like, that's the way that you can be one step ahead of a person who's making each decision street by street. But it becomes really hard if you don't give your opponent enough credit for being good, right? So if you just look at that and go, that's a non-size, this guy's an idiot, he has way too many hands for this, I'm all in. Now you're just getting free rolled or running into the nuts. Yeah. If you say, oh, that's a non-size, this guy's an idiot, he has way too many hands for this, I'm just going to call and then reevaluate river. Well, now you're pure folding every time the card comes red. And on top of that, you're probably getting... You're probably going to either face a check back whenever the board comes like bad for both.
Whenever you win, you'll just face a check back.
No, you never win. You never win. You never win
It's
because
true, you never do
you can win half.
half, yeah, whatever.
Right? And the only time you're going to win half is whenever it comes like another 10. And now you have trips with the jack and he has like king jack of diamonds and chooses to just check down because like you could be full. Right? So it's like you don't even get to win in those scenarios. You get to chop unless like you open lead. Like that could be the next iteration. You call, you hope to river a 10 and then you open jam.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like you're still just going to get called by ace jack doing that.
Right.
So it's not good. You just fold him off chops now, which isn't fun. Anyway, the whole point that I'm trying to arrive at here is that Jesse's a GOAT and that there is a lot of credibility and credence to people who are, in my opinion, from an upbringing where being highly in tune to their environment, highly sensitive to environmental shifts, lends itself to being great at poker. And I don't think that's an accident that we see this across the board in guys that are at the top that aren't from an online background.
Right.
So, you know, like, I think we should highlight it more because it's so easy to just highlight the guys that are crushing Triton.
Yeah, right.
You know, we always talk about the basement. We always talk about the basement dwellers, right? Like some nerd in their basement for 3 years has just been running Sims and turned themselves into a theoretical god. It's like, yeah, that's one path. But then there's another path. Like if that's not your experience and you have this kind of, extra ability to navigate these types of social scenarios, live is just so fucking fruitful.
You just change your name to Moneymaker.
Oh,
Good.
There you go. Yeah.
GOAT.
Well, I mean, you know, he had a big stretch.
He also just gets there.
He had a big stretch in between tournament wins for millions of dollars.
I mean, he's won a couple million this week.
Yeah, the heater's real.
Not a couple.
I mean, like 1 point something, right?
2?
All right. That's a couple, right?
No.
What's 2?
2 million.
He's saying 1.2. You said 1.2.
Yes. He won an event for 900K and then he got third for like 300K.
Okay. And then
How
what
much did
happened
he
in
win for
Venom?
Venom was
400?
maybe like 300,
359?
but it wasn't this week.
It was last week. Whatever. 2 weeks.
Okay.
Not even. 10 days, let's say. I think
Yeah.
it is.
No. It was before you went to Canada.
We'll give him flowers next week when he wins
I
on
only
the
went to
Triton.
Canada for
Give him
36
flowers. We
hours.
talked about him for an entire fucking episode. This guy's old news now. You gotta win something. It's been 2 days since he won anything.
That's a
Like,
very good
Careful,
point.
they're going to think you don't like him.
That can never happen. Do you
he's gonna
remember?
be just fine.
Do you remember the PCA episode?
Oh, yeah.
The GOAT.
That was the first time I ever met him in person. He just came right onto the podcast and started roasting everybody. Who the
To be
fuck
fair,
is
we
this guy?
took the first punch.
I'm not
Or
sure.
we dealt the first one, showing those videos of him just throwing down burgers or whatever it was.
Oh, that was so timely. I don't remember what sparked it, but somebody it was him at the Bahamas. Somebody like caught. I think it was Tom even.
It was burgers or hot dogs.
Yeah,
or something.
fucking
I can't
caught him in
remember what it
4K, just like
was. He was just piling.
gulleting these fucking double burgers. Just
It was Rob Kuhn, probably.
It might have been Kuhn.
Update on the Pirates, Berk. Scott Polskin's through 6 innings, 0 hits, but he's at 100 pitches. I don't think he's coming out for the 7th.
Oh, we
Yeah.
get to watch. Time to sweat.
Is he perfect or no?
No, he 1 walk, I think.
That's pretty sick,
I was glad
man.
they let him go 100 at
He's
least.
pretty good, yeah.
No shot he comes out for the 7th.
No chance.
8-0. They're
No
shaking his
ch-
hands right
Yeah,
now.
no
I'm
chance.
looking
Yeah,
at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Swing
Yep,
on him.
yep.
Swing
There
on
you
him,
go.
Paul.
Mhm.
Oh,
No
man.
shot. How do you feel about the mustache?
I
No.
like it.
I hate it.
I like it. Because you know what? He can do whatever the fuck he wants. If he wants to wear this dumbass mustache on his face and then go out and pitch like that, you deserve it.
You know what he
He
reminds
looks like
me
a
of?
super trooper.
You know what he reminds me of? The Midwest. He's
Yeah.
right at home.
Well, he's in the Midwest right now. He's in Chicago.
Yeah, and he's coming from
The
Indianapolis.
actual Midwest. That's smack dab in the middle of the Midwest.
Yeah, I don't understand. You know, you're 21 years old and you want to look like you're 36. I don't get it.
Did you see his girlfriend? He's doing just fine.
Berkey fucking just sits on his girlfriend's
All right.
page and just goes through the videos every morning.
what does Melissa say? Chill, Grandpa. Chill, Grandpa.
She's
Yeah.
an LSU gymnast. She's fine. Oh,
She's also like one of the biggest like social media influencers out there.
of course she is.
She's got like
It's
5
fucking
million.
2024. Like,
Yeah,
but you gonna compete as an athlete? You don't make any money doing that.
she makes I heard like she was getting like $500,000 for like a post.
Yeah,
like one
she's
post.
an Instagram model now. That's how this works.
Good for her.
Good for
TikTok,
her.
I think.
Good
is
for
her main
him.
thing.
Good for him.
Good
All right,
for
let's
both
get
of
to
them.
In the Muck.
Why?
I want to make sure it's
All right. Well, we got another user submission, and just to keep in the theme of yesterday, we're gonna rocket it off again.
All right.
So we're playing 5, 10, 20, and we got expect a storm. You're gonna expect a storm here, and folds to him in, I think it's him. They in the small blind, and with 4 clubs, 4 diamonds, they make it 80. They are 3,400 effective. The big blind in the middle, 3 bets to 275. Straddler folds, coming back around to us. We call. We get a flop of 10 of diamonds, 6 of clubs, deuce of spades. We decide to check. Big blind goes half, 275 again. We call. The turn is the 5 of clubs, giving us a gut shot. We check. And we got a 75% bet pot, 800 into 1,100. And we decide to check raise all in for 2,850.
Starting already.
And
Top
we
set.
get called.
Just repping the 4-3, huh?
Dun, dun.
Yes. And we get shown 2 queens.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. So where did we go wrong here, guys?
Can't rep the 4-3.
Yeah.
Is this live or online?
I don't know. I would assume.
I guess it's
This seems
straddled, so
very-
it's
this
almost
seems
certainly to
very
be live.
Yeah, it's straddles. Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, I think that everything's fine until the shove. I think whoever has queens here plays their hand very well. But I also think that it's pretty important to, again, we're talking about live poker here. It's pretty important to understand how somebody's constructing a double barrel 75% pot range in a 3-bet pot. Like, there are just some hands that, like, you just can't fuck up. Like, you can't miss it. If he has jacks plus here, you know that those hands are pure getting bet, even though maybe in theory they're supposed to check back some. But, like, when you face 75% pot, you are certain that you'll see jacks through aces, all sets, and then maybe some 10x, right?
Maybe some clubs, like.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to see from the bluff side.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you need to be able to identify what hands are bet folding prior to taking any sort of aggressive action here.
Yeah.
And my point that I'm trying to arrive at by being able to outline what hands are clearly betting is that it's a tight range of hands that are never, ever, ever folding.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like jacks plus is just literally always betting 75% pot here and absolutely never folding, setting themselves up for like a pot-sized jam on the river, give or take.
His worst hand feels like ace-10 of clubs or something along those lines.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, he could have 7-8 of spades. That's a great hand to double barrel bluff here. You could have 8-9 of spades, but how capable is your opposition of finding the appropriate bluff range?
Right.
And I think that's the first thing you need to be asking yourself when you're facing this double barrel, because in rank order of what 4s do, it's going to be call, raise, fold, right? But that order can very quickly change if you understand that your opponent is conditioned to being heavily imbalanced one way or the other, right?
Matt, quick question. When you say that in ranked order it's call, raise, fold, you're talking about right here on the turn?
Yeah.
Call, then raise, then fold.
Yeah, I was thinking it would be call, fold, raise. But
you don't want to fold your hand.
I
Your hand's
actually
too good to
thought
fold.
Yeah.
on the turn it was
no, yeah, I just think you just do a lot of calling.
Your hand's way too good to fold.
Yeah.
on the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I think I'm just folding on the turn, but
Oh,
what else is new?
You have
But
to
if you're
call.
folding on the turn, you're basically saying he's not bluffing.
Ever.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, like-
what I'm saying.
Okay, that's why I said the rank order can change if you are able to identify your opponent's range incredibly well. But again, this doubles back to like the conversation we just had about Jesse. If you're playing live and one of your skill sets is the ability to decipher how certain actions equate to certain range constructions, how certain sizings marry to certain range constructions. Like, does this guy have a 2 sizing strategy on this turn, in spite of the fact that maybe he's not basically, people who are studied will have 2 sizes on accident, right? I would only have a 1 size strat on this turn, and it would just be 2E. But that's because I'm simplifying. I know what the 2 sizing strategy is, and it's going to be like 2/3 and 2E. But if you look at how those hands split up between those 2 sizes, it's pretty symmetrical.
Yeah.
You're going to see the same candidates in both sizings. So I would just simplify to a 1 size and check. But a lot of people who are unstudied will just bet their hand. And that's why I was identifying like what all the value is, because Jacks Plus want to shovel money into the pot. So they're just betting their hand at that size. But if you see like 40% pot come through here, it's a hand that like either wants to bluff cheap or wants to arrive at showdown cheap. Like maybe 10-9 of spades bets 40% here, right? Maybe a hand like 8-9 of diamonds bets 40% here. Or ace-3 of spades bets 40% here, because it's just trying to leverage a fold and then reevaluate on river.
So then our villain actually chose a decent size here on the turn, right?
No.
Why? I thought you said 2E was...
Oh, our villain... Oh, yeah. He bet 75%. Yes.
Yeah.
His line is good.
Okay.
Yeah, his line is good. Sorry, I was thinking hero. Check jam's just like not really going to be a play.
But also 4s isn't folding because it's just a pair. And it also has
and improved too.
Yeah.
You're calling here in your game, Berk.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on who you're playing, but you're peeling here.
Some players I would fold against, but most of those players that I would fold against, I probably would have folded flop to half, because even though that's like pretty much the right size, most people just miss it. And generally, like, I would be happy to call third, and I would be happy to fold versus anything bigger than half.
You're on the flop.
On the flop. But like when they go half, it tends to just be like kind of mergy, and I would just be calling to fold anytime that they double barrel, because I think people are imbalanced.
Yeah.
But you could just never fold. Even if my plan was to call to fold, I would just never fold on this card unless I was like strictly positive he only had Jacks Plus. In which case, versus this size, I'm probably not getting the right price to peel, although it might be close. So yeah,
I mean, there's just a lot of backdoors that he just turned, and he's going to follow through.
Well, you can turn clubs into a bluff here too, right?
As out of position or in position?
So when you decide to call here on the turn, if a club comes on the river and you miss, actually no, because your line makes no sense.
How would you bluff?
Yeah, your line just...
Well, it's just like, how would you bluff? You have pot left, you're not going to open jam. Right? So like you have to start with a check, or maybe with like a small block, and then that somehow has to lead to a click that you can 3-bet jam over. Like there just isn't enough wiggle room.
Yeah, the line work is weird.
You're not planning on calling turn to bluff rivers, I don't think, with much of anything in your range.
Because you're calling because you think you still have value.
Right, which is why... It's also why like your check raise size on the turn is going to be small, because like you're not jamming sets, you're not jamming 6-5. You're just like torching it, because sure, the overpairs are going to call, they're never folding, but like you're just folding out a bunch of like weak stuff that's drawing nearly dead that would otherwise peel, and then more importantly, your bluffs don't really do anything. Like they don't function very well through that jam size, but they function really well through a click size. So if you have a hand like 7-8 and you check raise click and then you get jammed on, like, okay, whatever, easy fold. But when they don't jam, now you get to do a lot of jamming on the river, because the board's going to fall favorably. So maybe you river a pair, a 7, an 8, maybe another 6 or 10 rolls off, and like you're just open ripping here for 75% pot. Your opponent's going to have a hard time calling all their overpairs. Mm-hmm. And if they do, then like they're just going to be paying off your value a bunch, so you can just kind of like lean back off of the bluffs a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a very sensitive spot because you're facing a double barrel and a 3-bet pot. So like you're just not going to get to re-aggress very often. You're mostly going to play traps. You're mostly going to try to draw to the best hand. And playing check jam here just doesn't really accomplish anything, because all you fold out are bluffs, which you're actually beating. That said, 4s do bluff here, but they just click. They just make it 1600. Right? And then fold to a jam.
How do you play ace 4 of clubs here?
Probably just call again.
And then when the club hits a river?
You can block small.
What's the reason for not getting it all in?
On the turn?
On the river.
On the river? How would you?
Just
You're not going to open jam 110% pot. What do you have that isn't a flush?
No, it wouldn't be 110%.
It wouldn't be.
pot.
Hold on, it's gonna be very small
it'd be
here.
2K into
Right.
28, 27.
Okay, I must have set the sim up too deep.
Yeah, also because like the clicking would also be weird too. I was gonna say because like you're gonna make it 1600 with 1200 behind and fold.
Yeah, I have us getting to river with 110% pot. Oh, I guess like on the sim, I have it set up for 67% pot on the turn instead of 75. So I guess that maybe changes things slightly. But I started it with 175 big blinds. Is that not what we had?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Weird.
3,400. I started him with. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
About
tweak the
10-20.
sizes because I guess it's off by a small margin. Like it wants to go B40 instead of 50. And it wants 70 or 67 instead of 75. But this might increase jamming a little bit, but if that's true, then fours will just never bluff. So it'll only be call. What's
Should we hop over to Wizard now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously pre-flop's totally standard and fine. Flop is also good. B50 not chosen as much as B40 obviously, but assuming he's single sizing, which is reasonable because the two sizes are 40, 67, 50 is a nice hedge. And you'll probably get to increase the frequency a little bit. Yeah, so now it's almost a range bet. Which is, fairly reasonable, especially on this texture. Fours are probably going to play a mix. Yeah, so a little bit of raising, a little bit of folding, very suit specific. It wants to fold with the 4 of hearts. So basically when you block the non-backdoor, it wants to do a sliver of folding. Otherwise, it's going to mix between raise call. So call is fine, of course. Turn 5 of clubs. Again, no leading, I assume. Yeah, 0 leads. Okay, so now it does go 2E instead. So it chooses 79% pot, which is
so he chose a
pretty
good size.
close. Yeah. So yeah, this changes the structure of it a little bit, and it's like pure 2E. So that makes sense. I thought 2E was larger. So yeah, playing a single size strat here is pretty good. And again, like this just comes down to how often is he finding the proper bluffs. So like when we go through and we analyze the bluffs, obviously a lot of them are going to come from clubs. So if we isolate for clubs, you can see how red this is. He's just blasting off whenever he turns his backdoors. Ace king of clubs, ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, ace 8, ace 7, ace 4, ace 3, all blasting. Ace deuce of clubs, the only one that's playing check. So we only have like really one nut flush draw in our check back range, and then like a sliver of ace queen, ace king that we're checking back. Same thing from the king highs. We're really only checking back king 7. I imagine for no real great reason other than it might block some of the hands we're targeting. Queen high, we're betting all queen high flush draws, all jack high flush draws, the exception being jack 9. We're checking that back high frequency. So basically these are just like balancing out, right? And then combo draws actually are playing very passively. 8-7 of clubs, 9-7, 9-8 are all actually checking pure. And the reason for that is that they don't want to bet and then call the click jam.
Just want to realize equity.
Right. So a lot of our bluffs are going to come from the club region. If we isolate the other 3 combos, you can see we're not really bluffing very much. Let's take away hearts and see if that changes things a bit. No, we actually are bluffing hearts more than I would have thought. So, which I guess kind of makes sense because you open up a lot more backdoor floats to have to fold.
Did you just say float?
Listen. I hate the term.
You love it. You fucking love
You
it.
really do. You had a whole episode about how you hate it, and then you just use it all the time.
It's just
now.
been ingrained.
It doesn't mean to, because it doesn't mean to me the way it doesn't mean to me what it means to other people who use it. They mean it to take the pot away later. I mean it to get to the turn.
Right.
So I'm just using it as an adjective or a synonym for call.
Right.
Where they're using it for this specific strategic term.
Well, they're going to do things later on in the hand, so that's why they're floating, okay?
But they're not. That's the thing. It's like none of you are fucking doing anything.
Open up a can of worms here. Back to the hand.
You fucking idiots are calling with like no pair, no draw, with the intention to take it away and then like never take it away. Don't get me fucking started.
Well, you're started.
All right,
Take a deep breath.
So a lot of the bluffs here are going to be coming from the overcard candidates like King Jack, Ace Jack, Ace 10, King 10. Well, not King 10, sorry. Ace 10, King 10 are pairs. So those are going to be valued, but like King Queen, King Jack, Ace Jack. So a lot of the hands that are going to have high blocking properties over the 10. And then you're going to see a lot of the pairs actually kind of turning themselves into a bit of a merge. So you see a lot of the 5x, 6x range is going to be putting in a lot of pressure playing 2E. The wheels, it's really just Ace 4, and it's only the heart variety that kind of wants to go for it. Mainly, again, you're just going to get to fold out a lot of the other backdoor calls that have now missed. So when your opponent has hands like Queen Jack of diamonds, they have to give up, or even more so, you get to apply pressure to other ace highs. So whenever they have a hand like Ace 9 of diamonds, it's just a pure check fold, which is a really great event. But there aren't so many of those hands that you want to utilize all of your combinations. So you can see like Ace 3 of hearts doesn't do this. It just checks back because you start to run out of better hands that you get to fold, and now you're like bluffing too often. So yeah, it does start to lean pretty heavily on showdown value whenever it's choosing its bluffs. And that's kind of a byproduct of betting 2E. You want to be able to block a lot of your opponent's traps because, again, as I said, for the out-of-position player, you're not going to be playing much aggressive response. When you're facing a double barrel in a 3-bet pot, you're mostly just playing traps and then drawing to the best hand. So it's very passive response, especially at these depths where geosizing is going to be utilized pretty quickly. Once we do face the 2E size, let me get this filter off.
Wow.
Okay,
all
yeah.
calls.
So, like I said, well, it's actually folding more than I thought. So raising is the last option, but it's because there's no room to raise outside of all in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in rank order now, it's call, fold, raise. And there is a little bit of jamming taking place.
There is.
4 of spades, 4 of clubs is kind of getting it in there, and then our exact candidate, 4 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, is getting in a little bit less often, but it's there. It's like 10% of the time.
It's because the 4 of club is present, right?
Yes.
And this way they don't have like Ace 4 of clubs.
Correct.
That calls off.
Well, you want them to have Ace 4 of clubs to call off. You're beating that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that
I
that's.
didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, I don't think that that's why it's choosing the 4 of clubs. Because Ace 4 of clubs doesn't bet, so that's a non-issue, right? Like it bets. Oh no, it does.
It does bet.
It does. It's a pure bet. Sorry, my mic stands in the way. I only saw the hearts. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the purpose of the. Oh, it's just because it's clean when you're called.
Yeah.
So like when you jam 4s here with the 4 of clubs and you get called by a hand like 10-9 of clubs, you have 2 clean outs instead of 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically just like preying upon the fact of wanting to kind of
give you a Hail Mary.
Yeah, have like emergency outs.
Yeah.
Right.
911.
Yeah, which is partly why pairs are jamming to begin with.
Gotcha.
It's that when you're called, you'll still have some equity because you're laying them a pretty decent price.
Yeah.
You're only jamming for 80% pot. So whenever we look at the hands that shove here, and we isolate, let's isolate the clubs, for example. Aren't very many unmade hands. It's only 8-7, 9-7, 9-8. So those 3 combinations of combo draws that
Queen Jack's up there too.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And King Queen.
But these have overcards though. So they have additional equity when called.
Yeah, I see what you're
saying. Right? So Queen Jack, yeah, you're right in the sense that King Queen and Queen Jack are unmade. But the difference here is that they have additional outs to pairs. Whereas I guess
I mean,
to be fair,
you have gut shots to straights too, right?
What does?
They all have straight draws
Yeah,
involved, or something.
No, Queen Jack doesn't have a straight draw.
No, I'm talking about.
No. We're talking about
Yes,
the ones
these
in the middle.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. They'll have additional straight outs, but like they'll be blocked more often, right? Like when 10-9 calls and you have 8-7, you're in much worse shape than if you just had Queen Jack. You'd rather have the Queen Jack, right? 2 overs in the flush draw as opposed to just 5 outs on your open ender plus the flush draw. So like, yeah, it's a difference of 1 out. And equity wise, these are all going to play very similarly, of course. And I do find this to be a little bit strange. The EV of 8-7 is the highest of all. Well, no, sorry. Well, okay, sorry. Of all the unpaired hands, it's the highest. Mm-hmm. And I find that to be a little bit surprising, but maybe it's because of how many overpairs in 10x contain the king, queen, or jack. I imagine that that's what it has to ultimately come down to, is that you just have the cleanest outs with the 8-7.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Because
they never have 9, so it's never like your outs are never being blocked.
Really.
Right. Yeah, when they just have kings, like your queen, jack. Or...
Yeah, they have a lot of 9x in range, but a lot of it actually is clubs. So if we do, oh, sorry, this is filtered that way. That's why. So if we exclude clubs and we look at their 9x range, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. They just don't really ever have a 9 very often. Oh, but we wouldn't, with 8-7, we wouldn't really be blocking their 9x of clubs. Right. So with like, it would make more sense to me if it was like 9-8.
9-8.
But I guess 9-8 just inherently has less equity because it's a gut shot instead of an open ender.
But it's, yeah.
Right. So it's just naturally fewer outs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all of this is like pretty interesting. You don't really get to respond very aggressively. We don't have enough overpairs to really support. So you can see that a lot of it's like mergy bluffs where it's like 10-9 of clubs is getting it in. And that's basically, this hand doesn't want to make another decision on the end. So it's kind of happy to go and support our bluffs. Same thing with like ace-10. All varieties of ace-10 are jamming at some frequency. Ace-10 of clubs jamming the most often. Obviously, jacks has to get in, especially when it doesn't have a club. When it does have a club, it serves as like a nice bluff catcher on the end. We're never jamming 10s, which really kind of cuts our value range down a bit. But we do have 6s and 5s and 2s in full. But we're also never jamming 2s, which is a little bit surprising to me.
Well, it's because it unblocks top pair, or unblocks pairs, which they're going to jam. No. I think it probably has something to do with just being overset some of the time, but at this depth, I don't think that really matters, so it's probably not that. It's obvious that like we only have 2s with the 2 of clubs, so maybe it's just like inherent to being able to call down on all rivers. Like that 2 of club block is just enough where it's going to be able to call down on all rivers, and he's going to have enough bluffs in range that we need to have something that bluff catches. So we have 10s and 2s that will fit into our bluff catcher. 10 makes sense to me. Like you would only be targeting overpairs and combo draws, and like combo draws you don't care. You're going broke anyway. But anyway, 6s and 5s are going to get it in. 6-5 suited, I'm surprised isn't jamming at a higher frequency.
Yeah.
I would think this hand would need protection, and you get more than enough value. But ultimately, I guess what it does come down to is our bluffs aren't jamming at very high frequencies, right? They're only jamming the club varieties, and we just don't have them all that often. So again, like what I said is true. We're just not responding aggressively very often. You can see we're only jamming like 7% of the time. And 4s just kind of fits in there, a tiny little sliver, as like a little bit of a merge where it's not blocking anything, it's not unblocking anything. It has some showdown value. So like sometimes it gets called by worse that just has like a ton of equity. So like when we jam, let's see what the calling range looks like.
Yeah, a lot.
So yeah, let's see.
All his 10s.
All of it. Yeah, I mean all of his pairs, all of his single pairs 10 and above. We do get better to fold though. That's why it's kind of mergy. So you can see we get all the 6x to fold, which is really huge. We get all this 5x to fold, and then sometimes we get called by worse. Ace-4 of clubs. Well, not when we have the 4 clubs, I guess. Right. But Ace-4 and King-4 of clubs can both call. Ace-3
clubs.
Ace-3 calls off, which we unblock. So yeah, it's this weird like mega master where we get a 6 and a 5 to fold, and then sometimes we get called by Ace-High. Ace-Jack high calls, Ace-Queen high, Ace-King high. These all call. So it's basically, people think that merging's like not really a thing in theory, but it does occur on like the fringes.
Right.
Whenever you're in these very sensitive spots where you don't get to aggress all that often, it does occur. So ultimately, like not a terribly played hand.
No?
I think like
Do they get the check mark?
I'm
give him a check mark.
gonna give the. Sorry, guys. I still say no.
What?
All right. Guapo said, you know what? You don't get the jam here.
Why not?
Even though the wizard says you do.
It just feels bad, man.
Wow. Guapo's mad because
You
he
know
won't
what?
even
Fuck your
call.
feelings.
Hold on. Guapo's mad because he won't even call Toad.
Whoa, that's true.
He's salty right
That's
now.
true.
Guapo just folds pre-flops. When I have 4s, that's not good enough. Can't open this hand profitably.
I don't think Guapo is all that wrong. So let's lock his betting frequency to just be a little bit too nutted, right? So currently, you can see he's betting a pretty high frequency of his low equity hands, right? Let's just reduce this by, I don't know. Let's see what 25%.
Are you painting for a villain right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's too much. Let's just reduce it slightly. So let's reduce these numbers. I think they're around 40%. Let's reduce them to 30%. For equity 50% and lower. And then let's increase. Actually, let's not even do that. Let's just increase the amount of value that he bets. So let's just say he bets all of his value. All of his, I mean, his overpairs are pure anyway, with the exception of jacks.
Yeah.
But like, let's say he just never checks back sets or combo draws or anything like that, right?
Which is reasonable.
Yeah. They don't.
It's very, very reasonable. Yeah.
Right. So let's say that like all sets bet. Let's say all 2 pair bets, all overpairs bet.
All top pair. Keep going.
We'll give him 75% top pair.
Yeah, maybe not all.
They're just like needs to be aligned, I think.
You ever been outside? If this hand is doing that parade, it's getting bad.
Okay. And then right, okay. So yeah, let's lock for him just being too value heavy. And now let's see what the response is versus this size. So now he's betting like an extra 15% of his range. So we jam more. We jam more.
I still think I see a little sliver in there on the 4s.
Our candidate actually jams more often.
Ah.
So weird.
But the other ones jam almost never now.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But they also never fold.
Correct.
Yeah.
I like I said, 4s are going to
Can't
be
fold.
just way too strong.
Yeah.
The big reason why it's even folding a little bit in theory whenever he's betting appropriately is because of bluffs. You don't want to block like ace-4 of clubs. So let's lock this one more time, just for.
Keep going.
Well, let's just say that he bluffs way too infrequently now. Let's say only 25% of the time does he find his bluffs. So let's say no draw 25%.
Now you might just see. You might even see some folding, more folding.
And then we want to change the value again.
He's painting the typical jewel player right now.
Me?
Yes.
I always have it. I always have it.
This is
Remember that if you-
these are OMC ranges.
If you encounter the tortoise in the WSOP this summer, I always have it. Just fold.
Sure. Just fold.
Just fold.
Let the man live.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a range that doesn't bluff. So this is the further extreme. We can lock that. The response to this is going to be insane tight.
Yeah, of course, it has to be.
Because now he doesn't bet all that often, but when he bets,
just
he's
nutted.
just like super nutted.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
pure fold.
There we go.
There you go, Guapo.
We
You're like, this
got
is what
it.
they do in real life, so this is what I do in real life.
Right. So now
Yeah.
the threshold becomes combo draws. Like
Yeah.
they're now your pure continues. And like even your 10x needs to have a redraw. Right? So like only Jack 10 of clubs is calling, 10-9 of clubs, 10-8 of clubs. All the other 10x is just pure folding. They're getting it in, sorry, but you could see that like you don't really respond with a call anymore. Look at this overfold.
Right. And this is like going back to what you said earlier in the episode, Burke, is that this is why you don't need to mix live.
Correct.
Because you just look at the person and you know, okay, is this a steady person who has a bunch of bluffs and he's very balanced? Okay, I'm always pure calling fours, right? And then you look at an old man coffee or someone you just know is unsteady and just way, way too value heavy, pure fold fours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. You don't have to mix.
And you're right. Every hand that was previously a mix shifted one way or the other.
Exactly.
It either went to the fold bucket or the all-in bucket.
Right.
And now you see like this weird mergey raise size gets in there where it just clicks and leaves like 10% pot behind for the river.
Yeah.
That is like strategically not really necessary, obviously. You can just change it now to a pure jam. And yeah, you can see 17% shove, 2% call, and the calls like very easily can, like the calls don't serve you in any capacity other than to save money when you brick.
Right.
Right. Like these are going to call and then probably fold to river jams. Maybe jacks don't, but like let's just see what happens when it calls and then deuce of hearts hits river. It might just open jam, I guess. No. Yeah, so it's going to check. We have like no hands here. It's going to jam, and we're going to call only queens, I bet. Queens and sometimes jacks. So yeah, the reason why you're calling like the little bit of queen 10 of clubs, jack 10 of clubs, 5-4 of clubs, sorry, the other 5-4 varieties, it's literally just to improve.
Yeah. Sometimes they check back and just win.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's very important for live players to play around with node locking and take it to the extremes. So it's Wizard makes it super easy. Like if you can just lock for what happens if somebody is only betting with 50% equity or greater and see what the response is, and then relock it for what happens if somebody is bluffing way too often and see what the response is. It's very easy then to understand how we should be kind of like freestyling in the moment, right? Shifting our strategy exploitatively according to the opponent that we're up against. And that's why the first thing I said off of this was, this is a great hand to correlate to what Jesse does really well. Because if you recognize that when double barrels come through in a 3-bet pot, that this opponent is 2 something, right? You get to respond very naturally. If he's too weighted towards good hands, you just get to fold. If he's good and studied, then you just have a very pure call. Right. So the reaction of jam is an indication that you think your opponent is either too wide or playing a perfectly balanced strategy, in which case you have to jam 4 some of the time in order to have appropriate bluffs. And this one merges really well. Yeah. Right. So I think to defend Guapo's denial of having played this well, I think when you peel back the layers, it's about the why. Right. It's not the mechanics of like, jam is approved some of the time. Yeah. Why did you jam?
Right.
Name me the hands that we're going to fold.
Right.
And whenever you just come up empty, it's like, okay, name me the worst hands that we're going to call. It's like, you better have a lot of the ace, king of clubs, ace, queen of clubs, ace, jack of clubs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, down the line in order to justify this. Right. Yeah. And I think most people probably fail on that exact analysis. If you guys would like to submit your own in the muck hand for us to dissect on air, be sure to head over to our Twitter at onlyfriends_pod. It is the pinned tweet. You can follow that to our Discord channel and find the in the muck forum. Submit a hand there. The manager will choose it. We'll talk about it on the air. Or hit hashtag Discord in the chat and go ahead and click the link.
Shout out to Corey in the chat. He just has he's a member for 18 months. He says, "Yo fam, my birthday's today. Hope to see y'all in June, July. Drink on me. Protein shake for Burke."
Happy birthday, Corey.
Connie, the Patron is handy.
My guy.
Happy birthday, Corey. Yeah.
I hope you make it out here for the series. He's a Philly guy, yeah?
No. I want to say he lives in like Minnesota.
I'll book it.
Right. Wow. I'm on Conrad's side here.
Book this shit.
Corey.
Listen, who do you think talks to people more, me or you?
Corey, just let us know where you're from, bro.
Corey, we're not ending the show until we find out where you're from.
Let us know where you're from.
Corey, tell us.
That's going to do it for us today. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about these node lock spots in muck and whether or not you want us to keep deep diving. I'm always hesitant because they take longer than they're supposed to, and I feel like we go too far down the rabbit hole. Maybe you guys enjoy that stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episodes. Don't forget, you can get half off sell4y.io. right now, using the code CHAOS, sign up for a month and get it for cheap.
I will say I don't think these things go too long because I think showing that like the node locking and stuff is really important.
I agree.
It's like it shows, it opens up a whole nother thing. It's not like this isn't like you do this, you do that. It helps. I was really just trying to look up Corey's thing to see where he was from. I couldn't spell his last name, but I tried hard.
He's from Minnesota. You're right.
I know. I'm right.
How do you know?
Because we talked to people,
this guy,
man.
played with him. If it's the Corey I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's Corey. Someone that's, when
it's
everybody
Corey.
was getting shot up, he was sitting there, chilling.
Yeah, that's him. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We'll be back Monday. International Falls, Minnesota. God damn it, Corey.
Yeah.
God
Jimmy, let's
damn
go,
it.
baby.
I don't know why I thought you were from Philly.
You owe me like 100 push-ups.
Man, it's gonna be so much worse if he's just a Philly fan. Like that's a choice, Corey. That's a choice, my friend. You don't have to. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We're gonna be back very likely at noon on Monday, but I'll let you guys know. Everything's kind of touch and go now that the series is getting close, and we're playing a lot more often. But we appreciate you as always sticking by us this week. See you guys on Monday.
Later, squad.
Peace.